Deep in the human unconscious is a pervasive need for a logical universe that makes sense. But the real universe is always one step beyond logic. Now, I read this in Dune that I'm recently reading. Great book so far. I haven't finished yet, but so far pretty good. But this really struck out to me, especially because it's in a passage of like when the chapter starts as not even really as a part of a book, such a nice quote here. But it really got me thinking how really about our perception of the world and how often it's very easy to trick ourselves. And I believe it's easy to trick ourselves because when you look around, and if you go outside, and even if you look at, I was thinking about this, if you look at a car, any car, but let's say a gasoline car, an old school car, and you look at it and you really try to understand all the technology behind it and how it really shows all the things we humans, some humans that were very, progressive in their thought, had to master the elements, the way they function, how the cogs connect with one another, and all of these, and even then, like how we had to extract this natural resource that will burn inside and will fuel it, and how we were able to create gas stations that are full with this, and everyone can go there. And then, I don't know if you look at planes and all these things, and all of these technological advances, if you really think about it, they, at their foundation, first of all, is our conscious mind, yes, but really is our conscious mind's ability to understand the logic of the universe and really how to use it in our favor. And if you look at all of these things, it really is an understanding and a use of the laws of physics and scientific things and whatnot, and really able to extract what we want or what we can from them. And because of this, because so much that surrounds us is based on logic, and a lot of the things that we're after is also based on this logic, it becomes very easy to assume that this will be sort of our savior, and that everything that we want, everything we're after, can be achieved with logic. Now, the problem is that when we exit this realm of things that we can touch and see and feel, not even feel, but more in the practical sense, and we look at not only the meaning behind these things, but then the meaning behind our actions and behind our impulses and behind why do I even want to progress. And forgive me here if I'm shaking because I'm not used to holding the phone like this because I'm on vacation, so a bit of a DIY setup. But we look at these things, and when we step outside of this logical realm, because it stops being about it, it can be very scary, and it can be very frustrating too, because our natural instinct is to apply the same rules and the same thought process and the same process that we are used to rely and succeed with to this. But then they stop making sense, because with logic, it becomes very easy to understand where the limitations are and what certain outcomes are for certain actions. Like if, for example, if I look at gravity, if I throw an object that is this amount of weight into the air, it will fall at this speed, and it will always follow that speed. As long as I'm on planet Earth under these conditions, it will always happen like that. And so the answer to that action is singular. But then when I go to the meaning of things, especially my meaning of existence and my understanding of the universe and what am I here doing and why am I doing it, what is the point of it all, then there's not one answer anymore. And then it becomes very, my arm's getting tired here, and then it becomes very, again, frustrating, because not only are there many answers, but it feels like there are infinite answers that could be true. Because if I ask whether I'm talking with, if I believe in God as I do, or if I'm just pondering within myself and I ask, oh, would it be right to go through this path or that path or that path? A lot of times the answer will be, yeah, up to you, you choose. But then I ask, but how do I choose? And then becomes the problem, because all of a sudden, yeah, I can do, the logical way to go about it, which is, well, this path has potential for more money, and this business has potential for more scalability, and this thing has more potential for whatever. But very naturally after that question comes, well, why do I want that? And not everything is, why are these outcomes desirable if then what I'm doing is, doesn't fulfill me as I do it, or doesn't scratch that itch that I have? Would it then be better to earn less money but do something that I like more? And there's too many questions. And unfortunately here, a lot of times, even more answers. And so we're because of so many answers, then we're left with even more questions, infinitely more questions than when we began doing this exercise of just thinking about it, and then we get overwhelmed. And then we almost become paralyzed. A lot of people do that within their actions because you become unable to choose. Because, excuse me here, you know you have to choose. You know time doesn't wait for anyone. As you think about it, time is passing. So you doing nothing is still a decision. You're still growing older. Time is still passing. Everything is still going on. And you're not picking anything. Because you believe, and I believe, and a lot of us, when we're in this state, we believe that if I choose wrong, then I ruin everything. And so because I don't want to choose wrong, I'm going to delay it a bit more. And I'm going to stand here in front of all these open doors and try to logic my way into choosing one. And into deciding for what I want more money or more free time or more these things and whatnot. But I think if one is honest with himself or herself, very quickly we understand that we can't really quantify these things. What we're really after, deep down, if we're honest with ourselves, cannot be quantified, can hardly be expressed, and in a lot of ways it's, and I know I talk about a lot about this, but it's almost just a sort of gut feeling. And the nature of such, being in this realm of feelings, which a lot of, as far as the meaning of things, it has to be in that way. The nature of it is that it will not, we cannot logic our way there. We cannot, as we're so used to just doing the list of pros and cons and coming to a decision that not only am I feel fully validated in, but that I can see the next steps in that decision. And I can say, okay, I start here, then after a few years I do that, then that, and that, and that, because we know life doesn't work like that. And the more one lives, the more one understands that life just doesn't work like that. Because there's always unpredictable things. There's always things that happen that were unexpected, for the better and for the worst. And because we understand that, again, we become overwhelmed. But I think at the end of the day, it all boils down to, and I'm not trying to give advice, but just also making sense of life, that it's very hard to make sense of, is that we have to step out of the logical field and understand that we cannot look at things that we do in the logical sense. And we cannot try to look at these things as an equation to be solved, a calculation to be figured out that then will allow me to create the car that now runs. No, one can really only figure out the step in front, if a lot of times we can even figure out that. And again, because a lot of times it's not that you only have one option, it's that you have infinite options. And so again, even if one says that and recognize this, the question still remains. How do I choose? How do I answer these questions that are not logical, but in a lot of ways are much more important than the logical ones? Because the logical questions, if we are to live a life, in my opinion, that is good, have to follow from these answers to questions that are not logical. What is my point in life here? What do I want to do with my life? What is my purpose here? Which is very hard. But I think the two ways that one, and in my opinion, how I go about it and how I see it, is that first of all, to recognize that we cannot see the steps all in front. And we just have to take a step. Because not taking a step is still taking a step. And then after that is to recognize that now, especially if you're young, you still have all these doors open in front of you. And all these possibilities that you can choose to be a writer or a painter or an engineer or a doctor or whatever, start this business, go travel or whatever. But the more time passes that you don't enter a door and commit to it at least for the short time being, and implying in that you close all other doors for now because you can only do one thing at a time, especially those big decisions. If you don't take that step, inevitably life will begin closing these doors for you. And it may start with just one and another, but one that waits too long, and some wait their whole lives, will inevitably see all doors being shut as you're just floating in this limbo of nothingness. Never having done anything that you really want to do, never having lived, never having risked anything. And what now is left is essentially a shell of a person that had all possibilities, all futures in front of him or her, but because they didn't choose, nothing happened. And now you realize, something I hope I never realize, and I hope I do enough to not get to that point, but that I can see how one gets there, is you realize that in trying to figure everything out before it happened, you figured nothing out. Almost, if I dare go there, you ruined everything. And so we are logical, and we're going to rely on logic, and we're going to do these things, of course. But when it's problems that are not logical, we have to put logic to the side for a little bit and go beyond that realm.